Hey everyone, welcome back. We're at it again. I hope you are well and excited for our latest video. I'm Malcolm Cottle. I work as the collections technician for the Ruth Mott Foundation at Applewood Estate. You know, the reason I love my work is because I get to work with historical artifacts, and to me, every artifact has a story that it tells. That's always been my favorite part about history, learning the different stories of where we came from and how we got here today. This leads me into what I want to talk about today: oral history. Oral history is a field of study and method of gathering, preserving, and interpreting the voices and memories of people, communities, and participants in past events. Oof, that's a very technical definition. Let's break it down. So oral just means spoken word as opposed to written. And history in this case means explaining what happened, or in other words, telling a story. So really, oral history is just someone telling a story. It's the oldest way we as humans have documented our history. Oral histories are usually done in pairs. One person records another person telling a story. So again, to simplify, doing an oral history is when you interview someone about a story they have to share. So now that we know what an oral history is, who cares? It may seem like a weird question, but historians are always asking themselves this. Who cares and why does this matter? As I said before, sharing stories is the oldest form of sharing history. The reason I think oral history is important is because it's the way we learn what it was actually like to live through historical events. Okay, but we have textbooks to understand history. Why do oral histories matter? Well, oral histories are the way we record people's experiences throughout history. You can read in a book that Flint was growing in the early 1900s, but what did that feel like? What was happening in the neighborhoods and in smaller communities? How did that affect people growing up here? Oral history doesn't have to be historical events either. Public historians often research the everyday lives of people in urban and rural areas to try to understand what everyday life was like. If you sit down with your grandparent and they tell you a story about their childhood, that's oral history. If you're with a friend and you tell them a story about what you did 5 years ago, that's an oral history. There really are no rules as to what makes an oral history, but the key is that you should be recording them when you can. C.S. Mott kept a daily diary of everything he did in a day. He saw the value of recording his own history. Now, since this is written, it's not technically an oral history, but it's just as valuable to historians and to us to understand what life was like at Applewood and what C.S. thought about the different things going on around him. Now, that being said, he was interviewed many times during his life, and those are oral histories. I met a woman who actually interviewed C.S. Mott in 1971 for a middle school class project. She came to Applewood and interviewed C.S. Mott for about 45 minutes. In that interview, she asked him about his family, his job, moving to Flint, his foundation, healthcare, community education, being wealthy, and so much more. Let me show you a short clip.
Have you reached all of your goals that you've wanted to reach in life?
Have what?
Have you reached all of your goals that you've wanted to reach? Have you accomplished everything you've wanted to accomplish?
Not by a long shot. There are so many things that would fill it all.
Haven't you led an interesting and exciting life?
Well, I'll say about it. Very exciting life.
Honestly, I was blown away by this interview. I could not believe how rich in information it was. The amazing content of the interview aside, I want to highlight Terry herself for a moment. She recorded the interview on a reel-to-reel tape, which was actual tape, not digital, in 1971. She saved that interview for years and in 2019 had it digitized, which is when she offered a copy of it to Applewood. Terry knew that the interview was valuable, so she kept it safe and took the initiative to have it digitized so it could be better cared for and preserved longer. What an incredible act of civic duty. Terry preserved not only a piece of her own history, but major pieces of Flint history with an iconic Flint citizen. We talked about civic participation last time. Civic participation is the act of participating in your community. Since history belongs to everyone, when you preserve a piece of your community's history, you are being civically involved. You are helping preserve the historical memory of your community, and you're now able to share that history with others. The really cool thing about oral histories is that anyone can do it. Thanks to advances in technology, most people have access to a phone which can capture video and audio. Here's an example of one of our interns doing an oral history interview with an iPad.
Do you remember what the city was like?
The city when I came here was very prosperous. It was excellent. Nice stores, you go there, buy everything you want to. And in summertime, they put things on sale. You see all the street full with clothing, with bikes, with everything you can imagine, toys, whatever. It was a great city. General Motors, flourishing. People with ninth grade or high school, they go and they make $30-40 an hour with full benefits. It was great. It was probably at one time, Flint was the highest per capita income maybe in the world. And now, alhamdulillah, I feel very happy and relaxed more than anything that we have excellent community, growing and stable. And I hope it will grow more.
What year did you move to Chicago?
I came 71, January of 71.
And then when did you move to Flint?
72, January 72. Finished 1 year, I came to Flint. 4 years surgical residency, I started practicing in Flint. And since then I moved out of Flint.
Awesome.
Here you go.
See? You don't have to have professional grade microphones and cameras. Terry certainly didn't when she interviewed Mr. Flint in 1971. Start with interviewing someone you know, a family member or a close friend. Schedule a time to sit down together and have them tell you a story from their past. You'd be surprised what you'll learn. I interviewed my grandmother a few years ago for a class project, and I couldn't believe how much I learned about her in that one interview. Here are a few tips. First, have your subject introduce themselves, then tell their story. And be sure to get details afterwards. If they didn't say it, ask them if they know the year the story happened, where they were in the story, clarify who anyone was that they talked about, and any other details you think might be needed if someone else heard the story. See? Not that hard at all. Just make sure that when you interview someone, they know what's going on and that you are recording them for an oral history. Transparency is always a good ethical practice. The Ruth Mott Foundation has actually been doing an oral history project called Share Your Story. We hear stories all the time about people that have met the Motts and who have been to Applewood before it was a historical estate. We're trying to capture these stories to preserve the community memory of the Motts and Applewood. If you have a story, no matter how long or short, go to our website, ruthmottfoundation.org, and look for the Share Your Story logo. Click that and you can type in a story and submit it. Or you can video record your story and email it to us at applewoodinfo@ruthmott.org. I hope you've enjoyed this video and learned why oral histories are important to record. But you know, sometimes it's not just about preserving history for others. Sometimes it's about preserving your memories for yourself.
You know, I walked through here 50 years ago with my dad. And to hear my dad's voice again. So yeah, I get a little emotional on that. So, because that was just a time Flint was prospering.
Well, not only that, it's open at night, and I, myself, as an adult, now I've put in 2 years over there. I worked for the fire department for 20 years here in the city of Flint. And we had a fire program that was based on fire department, that was set up as a part of the junior college program. And this to me was one of the finest things. We're trying in our own way to become more sophisticated, and you still put out fire with water and men, but it's how you apply the water and how you use the men that makes the thing effective. And formal training, even in our program, I think is one of the best things that ever happened.
That's pretty cool. If you want to hear more sections of the interview Terry did with C.S. Mott, we'll leave a link in the description you can follow. And let us know in the comments who you would like to do an oral history interview with. Whose story could you help preserve? Alright, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Your comments on my last video really made me smile, so drop another comment and tell me what you thought about this one. Oh, and also like, share, subscribe, yada yada yada. To everyone out there, stay safe, stay healthy, and remember that history is worth preserving. Thanks.